So heading into 2022, GPU prices are still at an all-time high and supply is still at an all-time low. PC flipping has become extremely difficult because people still expect us to put out similarly priced PCs, except our costs have skyrocketed. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about some changes that you might consider making to your PC flipping strategy heading into 2022. So the first topic that I want to touch on is the GPU shortage. Personally, I don't see the GPU shortage letting up anytime soon. It's just not a realistic time frame. But I have noticed a few things in the GPU market, and that's that the GPUs that have skyrocketed 2 to 3 times in price, those are the GPUs that are good for crypto mining. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Crypto is back, and this time it's taking all the GPUs, used and new, and the price is with it too. So all of these cards, the RX 580s, RX 570s, GTX 970s, GTX 1060s that used to be great for all of the budget builds, they are now all gone because you'd have to pay a crazy amount of money to get these GPUs now. Instead, I found that older GPUs such as the GTX 760, GTX 770, and the Radeon HD 7000 series cards, these all tend to be not as strong in GPU mining, and they are perfect for budget builds. You should be looking for these GPUs around the $80 to $100 mark, and although they're not as strong as the previous set of GPUs, these seem to be the least overpriced for the performance that they give without being complete potatoes. Now, because these GPUs are older and they're not really meant for 144 FPS gameplay, I like to pair them with some older hardware. Personally, I found that pairing them with second generation i7s seems to do extremely well, but you can go with really any lower end Intel CPUs. I find them to be a good match for these GPUs, and I can also lower costs of my PC so I can lower the selling point as well. Another thing that you should take into consideration is people upgrading parts. Now, when people upgrade CPUs, they're usually upgrading their motherboard too, and sometimes RAM as well. If you can, you should try to look for deals that give you CPU, motherboard, and RAM all in one, because then you don't have to go and look for a specific part. I found that a lot of people are upgrading their second generation, third, and fourth generation Intel platform. So try to look for motherboard, CPU, and RAM combos that involve those CPUs. Skylake era CPUs are still only around 6 years old, so they aren't quite at that point where people are dumping them into the market en masse and used prices are coming down significantly. Ryzen is a different situation, but it's still really hard to find good budget deals on Ryzen combos. AM4 has had an extremely long lifetime of 4 generations, so most people are just keeping their motherboard and RAM and just upgrading the CPU. There's no reason to buy a new motherboard in most cases. I'd expect once AM5 drops sometime in mid-2022 that people will start selling their old AM4 CPU, motherboard, and RAM combos and upgrading to DDR5 systems, but that's going to take around 6 to 12 months after launch for people to really start pushing a lot of used Ryzen combos out there. So once AM5 drops, expect a lot of people to be dumping their first and second generation Ryzen CPUs, which are still fantastic for budget builds. I would 100% recommend them if you can get your hands on them. And you will also find a lot of B350 and B450 motherboards entering the market as well once AM5 drops. I would also be looking for people upgrading their GPUs when Intel's new GPU lineup releases. That's going to happen sometime in the middle of 2022. Check out the Moore's Law is Dead video in the description below if you want more information on the entire lineup of Intel's new GPUs. But personally, I will not be touching it. I don't think that you should buy them because a lot of GPUs on release tend to have a lot of bugs, and people who are buying PCs from you probably don't want to have to deal with bugs and they just want to return it immediately. So that's obviously not good for business. So I would stay away from the Intel GPUs and instead look for people who are upgrading their old GPUs and just buy those instead. Now going into 2022, I don't know how many of you are still doing this, but you should have at least 16 gigabytes of RAM in every single one of your PCs. 8 gigabytes of RAM just is not going to cut it anymore. It's going to be taken up easily by a few programs, and more people will be inclined to buy your system if it has 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's not that expensive to just add another 8 gigabyte stick of RAM into your PC anyways. Another thing that has come forward into the spotlight in recent months is Facebook Marketplace. Now, I've begun to use Facebook Marketplace personally for a lot more of my deals, and Facebook has added a lot of new features to Marketplace. Now, if anything, this pandemic has taught us that online shopping is just as good, if not better, than retail shopping. But there is one exception, and that's Facebook Marketplace shipping. Now, I've bought quite a few things, and it's ended up in one of 3 ways. Number 1, the seller takes forever to ship it out, so it arrives really, really late. Number 2, the seller just does not ship it at all, so I have to cancel and refund my order. Or number 3, I click on the listing for a shipping, obviously, and it will take me to a third-party site, or there will be a link in the description that will lead me to a third-party site, which is obviously a scam link. I would strongly recommend you to stay away from Facebook Marketplace shipping, and the prices really aren't even that good to begin with. So stay away, folks. This is not the place to be. For me, I've actually gotten really lucky for some reason, and I found that I needed to up my budget because I was buying so many of these great bundle deals. I don't know if it's people getting rid of a bunch of tech because of COVID, but there are just so many great deals on the market right now, and I just cannot pass up on the offers because they're just so well priced. I've also got these 2 PCs, which I was able to build for around $275 each, and I can sell each for around $400 based on other PCs in my market. They can do around 80 to 100 FPS in Fortnite in low settings, which really isn't bad at all. Here are the specs on screen right now, and these are typically the type of PCs that I've begun to flip now. So just to sum things up, we talked about GPUs that you should be looking for amid the GPU mining craze. We talked about parts that people are going to be upgrading, and we also talked about Facebook Marketplace. Hopefully this video was helpful to you, and don't forget to stay safe and let me know what your thoughts are on PC flipping going into 2022. See you next time.